Our reading this morning is a poem by the well-known and beloved Mary Oliver. You do not have to be good. You do not have to walk on your knees for 100 miles through the desert, repenting. You only have to let the soft animal of your body love what it loves. Tell me about despair, yours, and I will tell you about mine. Meanwhile, the world goes on. Meanwhile, the sun and the clear pebbles of the rain are moving across the landscapes, over the prairies and the deep waves, the mountains and the rivers. Meanwhile, the wild geese, high in the clear blue air, are heading home again. Whoever you are, no matter how lonely, the world offers itself to your imagination, calls you like the wild geese, harsh and exciting, over and over announcing your place in the family of things. Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving, ours is no caravan of despair. Come, yet again come. Everyone loved Aunt Bobby because they had to. She was the oldest of my aunts, almost a second mother to my own mom. She became an elementary school teacher because my grandmother Lillian believed that to be the best of the few career options open to women at that time. And based on her own agreement to marry my grandfather on his building their home within easy distance of the State Teachers College in Livingston, now the University of West Alabama, all 5 of my grandmother's daughters received their first degrees there. Aunt Bobby was the only one who did not pursue further learning and settled into a 40-year career working with small children. I have sometimes wondered what kind of teacher she was. She was my eccentric aunt, and the older I got, the more I could see how odd she was. She must have used her suitcases for storage because she always packed her belongings for her overnight stays in brown paper grocery sacks. And she always intended to take over all the meals, but she didn't really cook. Her meals all came out of cans, the contents of which were warmed in white enameled saucepans. She served the food on paper plates, and she liked to serve old standards like pear salad. You remember pear salad? It's a canned pear half sitting on a leaf of iceberg lettuce with a dollop of mayonnaise and half a maraschino cherry on top. She ruined banana pudding for me because she used artificially flavored everything in it. The only real things were the bananas. She was prone to headaches in response to any conflict. There was no arguing with her. My mother was good at sweetly talking her out of things, but if she dug in her heels, that was it. She wrote letters at least once a week in a strange child's print, at least 4 pages, front and back. She wrapped up 25 cheap plastic presents in white tissue paper and sent them after Thanksgiving, so I could unwrap one each day before Christmas. She always talked to me as if I were 5, which became unbearable long before I reached the age of 10. She fell out with another aunt over their mother's will and never spoke to her again for her remaining 18 years of life. I have almost all her remaining photos and memorabilia because, well, no one else wants them. Aunt Bobby is remembered with eye rolls, head shakes, and worse. Only a few still living recall her with much fondness. I'm one of those people. We have no control over what family we are born into and who else is part of that family. We are stuck with these people, some of them for a very long time. I was fortunate to have loving, competent parents, and while they have been gone some years, my younger brother and I are still close and in regular, friendly communication. I even have a number of extended family with whom I am actually friends. But there are also eccentrics, exploiters, alcoholics, and abusers. I was thrown into that company as well. They weren't all as harmless as Aunt Bobby. I have known people who have suffered far worse at the hands of family, and while I won't go into triggering detail in my sermon, I know that some of you who are listening to me have been greatly betrayed and damaged by family who were supposed to love and care for you. I am so sorry that such things happen to you. If you need to talk or find helpful resources for support, please reach out to your wonderful minister, Reverend Julie. She loves you and wants to support you, and she will be back in your midst very soon. When my husband Bill and I were married, he brought into my life an extraordinary friend. Linda and Bill had been close since high school, and she stood with him at our wedding as the best friend. She and I got along marvelously. She has joined us for many holidays, and she has come to our aid in times of crisis. She befriended my mother during the last year of her life and helped care for her after her stroke. Linda also stayed on and helped sort and clean out Mom's house with both respect and ruthless efficiency. We spoke on the phone just the other day and reminded each other as we parted that we are family, closer in many ways than the biological kin we are connected to and have been for over 20 years. I would trust her with my life and that of my children. Who are your family of choice? Who helped raise you? Who stood by you during crisis? Who can always make you laugh and will weep with you when all seems lost? Who knows you better than anyone and who sees the best in you even when you are not behaving as well as you would like? Who has forgiven you for your failures? And who have you been willing to forgive because the bond is too strong to be broken? Who gave when they had little left and received what you had to offer? Whom do you trust completely? And whose well-being would you guard at all costs? Family of choice is a powerful connection. Church is also a kind of family. It is both a family of choice and a family you get stuck with. Each of us are here because we decide to be here. We're here voluntarily. That's the choice. Each of us, when we visited this church for the first time, we saw something, we felt something, we experienced something amazing, heartwarming, life-altering. And we thought, I want to be part of this congregation, this church family. We found our way into the midst of the group and discovered niches that we fit in and met people who felt like family, the kind of family we would choose if we could. And we settled in. At some point, we each discovered that there are some people in this church family, in all church families, who aren't quite as exciting to be close to, who rub us the wrong way, who make us uncomfortable, who challenge us. And we realized that to be part of this family of choice, we're stuck with some folk we'd just as soon not spend so much time with. Now, I'm not talking about tolerating people who are behaving in destructive, abusive, dangerous, or hurtful ways. Such people are in violation of the membership promises that they made, and they must be held accountable and called back into covenant by the leadership of the church. I am talking about people we just don't mesh with, don't agree with, don't really like. That's always the challenge of church family. In a Unitarian Universalist church, the theist and non-theist must sit together. The Buddhist and the pagan must break bread. The Taoist and the Christian must march side by side. The Jew and the agnostic must sing from the same hymnal. We believe that difference enriches and enlightens, but to be honest, sometimes difference just annoys and irritates. Let's be frank. Sometimes it is not about belief or practice. Sometimes it's just about petty power struggles, such as longtime members versus new members, or older versus younger, or kids programs versus adult programs, or one committee versus another. Sometimes we just get in each other's ways and on each other's nerves. I so love parish ministry, in part because I love knowing and ministering to such a wide variety of people, from the most courageous to the most outlandish to those who have driven me crazy. There was an old Methodist fellow who hooked up a vacuum cleaner in reverse to the grill vent because the hot dogs were taking too long and burned them all to a blackened crisp. That was a great 4th of July picnic. There was the father who brought his trans daughter to our youth group for the first time and needed reassurance for the safety of his beautiful child. There was the 90-year-old lady who still mounted her riding mower every week to care for her own lawn. There was a fellow who built a free curbside mini library and kept it stocked for the neighborhood kids. The former Alabama poet laureate volunteered as the Sunday lay leader at one congregation. There was a well-intentioned Sunday greeter who tended to run visitors off with his cold, brusque manner, of which he was totally unaware. There was a chronically ill woman who insisted that her husband send me home from each visit with a margarine tub full of bantam chicken eggs. Little bitty eggs. There was the gentleman farmer who called me at 5 a.m. to come out to watch him tie a rope around the hooves of an oversized calf, brace his feet against the haunches of his cow, and pull with all his might to bring the little guy into the bright, cold air. There was a woman who didn't want her dying church to close, in part because she was using the empty classrooms to hoard and store her own stuff. There was the volunteer caught smoking in the nursery by an open window while holding a baby on her hip. There was the bright, funny young person who wore 5 different evening gowns in his own personal fashion show at the first gay prom held in this very room. And he looked wonderful in each one of them. There were the folk in this congregation who 60-something years ago risked their lives and endured bomb threats to support the work of civil rights in this area. The list is long, my friends, every congregation I have ever known, both Methodist and Unitarian Universalist, has been filled with a fascinating and varied collection of mostly wonderful people. Each had found their church to be a place where they could bring their gifts and their eccentricities and be welcome. And of course, that includes you and myself. So this church is a kind of family we have chosen and a family we are stuck with. It's important to remember that not only have we chosen to be a part of this interesting, strange, and marvelous group, but that they chose to receive us into their family also. We choose and we are chosen. We are stuck with them and they are stuck with us for a time at least. There is no perfect family, no perfect friend, and no perfect church. Churches attract folk who cannot find welcome anywhere else. That is part of what it means to be a church, to follow our principles. Remember the old Groucho Marx line, I don't want to belong to a club that would have me as a member. If our fellowship will accept us as members, it certainly can't be perfect. We are far more like the island of misfit toys from the TV version of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. A big part of the Unitarian Universalist message of good news is that if you feel like a misfit in the world, you may find a welcoming place here. You should come and try us out. You may find an unusual and wonderful kind of family here. You may find your spiritual home. Amen. Shalom. Blessed be.